The rain was taping against the windows of Bradford Cole's corner office when he pushed my promotion application across his mahogany desk like it was something dirty. 8 years of 60-hour weeks, missed family dinners, and weekend shifts cut down to a 15-page portfolio that he had hardly looked at before rejecting it completely. "I appreciate your hard work, Preston," Bradford said, adjusting his Harvard MBA diploma on the wall behind him. "But after thinking it over carefully, I don't think you're ready for senior management. Maybe we can talk about this again in a year or two when you've built more modern leadership skills." Modern skills. The guy was 34 years old and had only been here 18 months. I'd been running operations at Titan Manufacturing since before he even finished college. I kept my face calm, the way they trained us in the Navy. 20 years of military service teaches you how to control your reactions, especially when some young officer thinks he knows more than the person who's actually done the job. Same idea applied here. "I understand. Thank you for the feedback." "Glad we agree," Bradford answered, already looking down at his phone. "The Patterson contract needs your focus today. The colonel has been asking for updated details on the hydraulic systems." I picked up my papers and walked out of that office knowing something had changed deeply. When my work phone started buzzing around 7 p.m., I turned it off and kept listening to Connor talk about his team's chances at the district championship. "Mom would have been proud," Connor said quietly, picking up his homework. "You being here, I mean. Linda always said the best gift you could give your kids was your attention. It took me 8 years to remember that." The phone buzzed 17 times before I finally silenced it. By morning, the cracks were showing at Titan. I arrived right at 8 again and found the plant in quiet chaos. 3 people were gathered around the broken press, and I could see Bradford through his office window, waving his hands during what looked like a tense phone call. The Patterson contract team had sent urgent changes to their hydraulic specs overnight, changes that needed understanding not just what to fix, but why the original design worked in the first place. Bradford had tried to lead the response meeting at 7 a.m. but quickly found himself lost without my usual prep work and technical briefings. "Where are the technical specs for the Patterson changes?" he demanded, showing up at my workstation around 11 a.m. His usual clean look was slightly off, tie loosened, hair messy from running his hands through it. "They're in the shared drive," I answered calmly. "Under defense contracts, subsection Patterson Industries." I mentioned it in last month's meeting. There are hundreds of files in there. "Which one exactly?" I opened the folder on my screen, aware that a few coworkers nearby were listening. The main document is called Patterson Hydraulic Systems, Complete Technical Documentation. It's organized by parts with cross-reference troubleshooting guides and modification steps. Bradford stared at the 200-page document like I had handed him a physics textbook. Pages full of technical drawings, pressure calculations, safety override steps, all the knowledge I had built over 6 years of working directly with military engineers. "Can you just take care of this directly?" "Colonel Patterson's team is waiting for answers." "I'd be glad to," I said, checking my calendar. "But I have the quarterly safety compliance review this afternoon. It's due to the Department of Defense by end of business today." His face turned red. This was a man who never had to choose between 2 critical deadlines, because I always made sure he didn't have to. "This can't wait until tomorrow." "I understand," I replied helpfully. "Would you like me to reschedule the safety compliance deadline with the DoD?" The question stayed in the air. Bradford knew he couldn't ask me to ignore a federal deadline, but he also knew he was completely lost without my technical skills. He walked off without answering, his expensive shoes hitting hard against the concrete floor. That evening, I took Connor to his baseball practice and actually stayed to watch instead of sitting in the car working on my laptop. For the first time in years, I was fully there, watching him field ground balls, noticing how he had grown into his tall frame, seeing the confidence he had built at shortstop. "Nice form, Connor," I shouted when he made a diving catch that would have made his mother proud. He smiled and waved from the field. After practice, as we loaded his gear into the truck, He said, "Thanks for staying, Dad. Feels good having you here. I should have been doing this all along, son." When we got home, I checked my work phone for the first time since 5 p.m. 52 missed calls from different company numbers. Voicemails ranged from confused to desperate to full panic. The Patterson hydraulic system had serious problems during afternoon testing. 2 other production lines were also having issues, all clearly explained in procedures nobody had bothered to read. The quarterly compliance report for the Department of Defense was still not finished, and according to Wesley's voicemail, someone from the DoD had called asking about our submission. I set the phone down and slept better than I had in months. The next morning, I arrived exactly at 8 again. The mood in the plant had changed overnight. Stressed coworkers rushed between meeting rooms, their usual calm replaced by barely controlled panic. Bradford was visible through his office window, waving his hands on what looked like a video call with his father. Even the CEO's assistant was pacing near the elevators, something I had never seen her do in 8 years. I sat at my desk and calmly organized my tasks for the day. First priority: finish the DoD compliance report. Second, review the Patterson technical specs. Everything else could wait. "Preston, where the hell have you been?" Wesley whispered sharply, appearing beside my desk with wide eyes and grease-stained coveralls. "Everything is falling apart. Bradford has been trying to reach you since yesterday afternoon." "I left at 5 re," I replied calmly, opening the compliance database. "My contract states business hours are 8 weir to 5 wuli." Wesley stared at me like I had started speaking another language. But the Patterson crisis, their whole hydraulic system failed during stress testing. The colonel is threatening to walk. "What exactly failed?" I asked, curious but staying seated. "Something about pressure differences and safety override systems. Nobody understands your documentation without you explaining it." I nodded slowly. "That's Chapter 7 in the manual, Emergency Pressure Relief Systems. It requires understanding the cascade failure sequence I designed to prevent major hydraulic breakdowns." "Right, exactly," Wesley almost shouted. "So you'll handle it?" Before I could answer, Bradford's assistant showed up at my desk looking stressed. "Preston, emergency meeting in conference room A. Now." I picked up a notebook and pen and walked calmly to the conference room where Bradford sat with his father, CEO William Cole, and Colonel Patterson on a video screen. Their faces looked like they had aged 5 years overnight. Colonel Patterson was someone I had worked with for 6 years, starting when he was a major in charge of vehicle procurement. We had built mutual respect. He understood I spoke his language. Military precision applied to civilian work. Seeing his serious expression on the screen told me everything about how bad things had become. "Preston," William Cole said, relief clear in his voice. "Thank God. We need your help with this Patterson situation right away." I sat down and placed my notebook on the table. "Of course, sir. How can I help?" Colonel Patterson leaned forward on the screen. "Hayes, we have hydraulic systems failing stress tests across 3 vehicle prototypes. My engineers say it's a basic design flaw, but Bradford insists your documentation shows everything should work perfectly. The documentation is complete," I replied. "What exact failure mode are you noticing?" "Pressure surges during emergency braking situations. The safety overrides are not kicking in the way they should." I nodded slowly. "That sounds like a calibration problem with the pressure relief valves. The system has several fail-safes, but they need to be tuned for your exact operating conditions. It's all explained in Section 7.3 of the technical manual." Bradford's jaw was set hard with controlled anger. "Let's get straight to the point, Preston. What will it take for you to fix this right now?" The room became completely quiet. William's eyes opened a little wider while Colonel Patterson watched with professional curiosity. "That's kind of you to ask," I said. "But I should mention something. I've been approached by Lockheed Martin's Defense Division. They've offered me a senior engineering role with a strong increase in salary. Apparently, they think my experience makes me ready for a leadership position. You could have heard a pin hit the floor." Bradford's face lost color while William leaned forward quickly. "You're leaving?" William asked. "When?" "I haven't accepted their offer yet," I answered. "I've been taking some time to think about my options." Colonel Patterson's voice came through the speakers with direct military clarity. "Hayes, you're the only contractor who has understood our requirements from the very beginning. If Titan can't keep its best people, we may have to reconsider our partnership." That was the ultimate threat. The Patterson contract wasn't just $18 million each year. It was the base that let Titan compete for other defense contracts. Lose Patterson, and the company would lose its security clearance and its entire defense business. William Cole looked like someone had just told him his building was burning. "Preston, name your price. Whatever Lockheed is offering, we will match it." "It's not only about money," I said. "It's about being recognized, being respected, and having the authority to build the systems this company needs instead of just fixing broken ones." Bradford finally spoke up. "The Ellison client asked for you by name last month. You can't just leave now." "Interesting," I said. 4 other clients have done the same in the last 6 months. I've been building trust and solving issues while being told I'm not ready for senior management. I reached into my folder and placed a resignation letter on the table. "Here is my 2 weeks' notice. I will support the transition as my contract requires." William grabbed the letter before Bradford could move. He opened it, read it quickly, then closed it with decision. "This will not be needed," he said firmly, looking directly at me. "Preston, I would like to speak with you in private." "Colonel Patterson, we will call you back within the hour with a solution." The video call ended, and Bradford stayed in his seat while his father and I stood up to leave. For the first time since I had known him, Bradford Cole looked truly worried. I followed William Cole to his corner office, larger than Bradford's, with windows looking out over the full production floor, where I had spent 8 years keeping everything working. He motioned for me to sit in the leather chair across from his mahogany desk, then closed the door behind us. "I have been watching your work for a while," William said, sitting down, though clearly not closely enough. "This situation with Bradford bothers me a lot." I stayed quiet, letting him continue. "In the Navy, we learned that sometimes the best move is to let the other person fill the silence. Tell me honestly, Preston, what would make you stay here?" I thought carefully before answering. "Recognition for what I actually do, pay that matches my value, and the authority to create improvements instead of just maintaining failing systems." William looked at me for a long moment. "I am creating a new role, Director of Technical Operations, reporting directly to me. $140,000 base salary with performance bonuses. 2 days a week, remote flexibility, and full control over production protocols and safety systems. The position is yours if you want it." The number hit me hard. That was almost double my current pay, enough to cover Connor's college fees at any school he chose, with money left for his living costs. But I did not answer right away, which seemed to surprise him. "Is that not enough?" he asked. "It is very generous," I said. "But I need to be clear about something. I am not using the Lockheed offer as pressure. They are actually waiting for my decision." William leaned back. "What can they offer that we cannot match or even beat?" "A clean start," I said honestly. "No history of being ignored. No coworkers who see me as just the maintenance guy instead of a leader. No CEO's son who thinks military experience is old-fashioned." He flinched slightly at that last part. "Fair points. All of them. But think about this. You have built something here that you know very well. You have created relationships with clients who trust you personally. Starting over means building all of that again from zero." He was right, of course. 8 years of experience and knowledge is not easy to replace, but neither is the feeling of being constantly undervalued. "I will need some time to think," I said at last. "Of course, take the weekend, but I need your answer by Monday morning." He stood up, signaling the end of the meeting. "And Preston, I would appreciate it if you could help stabilize the Patterson situation before you make your final decision, for everyone's sake." I nodded. "I will handle Patterson personally this afternoon." When I got back to my desk, an email from William was already waiting with the offer written out. The salary number looked even better in writing. I was preparing materials for the Patterson call when Bradford came up beside my desk. His usual confident style was gone, replaced by something that looked almost like uncertainty. "We need to talk," he said quietly. "Not here. Lunch? I have the Patterson call at noon." Together, step by step, we improved the system. We made things simpler, more direct, and less wasteful. We streamlined operations across all 4 production lines. We removed extra steps that were not needed, fixed communication gaps, and made sure everyone knew their role clearly. As a result, overtime costs dropped by 35%, which was a huge change for the company. At the same time, the quality of output did not drop. In fact, it improved. Products were more consistent, errors were reduced, and delivery times became more reliable. The Patterson contract also grew bigger during this time. What started as one project expanded into work on hydraulic systems for 3 more vehicle types. This was not just luck. It happened because the client trusted the work we were doing. Colonel Patterson himself called William personally to praise the level of excellence in our operations. That call meant a lot to the company, and everyone knew it. Bradford and I also found a way to work together without conflict. In the beginning, it was not easy, but over time we built a professional relationship based on mutual respect. He focused on client meetings, presentations, and the business strategy side of things, while I handled the technical operations and the work on the ground. It turned out that he was actually good at the business side once he was not trying to control systems he didn't fully understand. When each of us stayed in our strength area, the results were much better. 6 months later, my life also had a new rhythm. I walked out of Titan at exactly 5 p.m. on a Friday, which had become my normal routine now. No last-minute panic, no staying late for problems that should have been fixed earlier. Things were more stable, more controlled. When I got home, Connor was already there, sitting at the kitchen table. College acceptance letters were spread out in front of him, along with papers for scholarship applications. "How did it go, Dad?" he asked, looking up with interest and a little excitement in his voice. "Good," I said, putting my laptop bag down near the chair. "Really good." The apprenticeship program starts next month. We're giving 15 experienced workers a clear path to move into supervisor positions. They won't be stuck in the same role forever without growth. Connor smiled when he heard that. "Like you should have had," he said quietly. "Exactly like that," I answered with a small nod. "That's the point." I looked at the papers on the table and then back at him. It felt different now, not just at work, but also at home. Things were moving forward in a better way. Sometimes people think the best response to being underestimated is to prove everyone wrong in a loud or dramatic way. But that's not always the strongest move. Sometimes the real power comes from building something better, from creating a system where skill, hard work, and experience are seen clearly and can't be ignored anymore. And when that happens, you don't need to fight for recognition. It comes naturally because the results speak for themselves.